through some acquaintances, I met a guitar artist named Cinchel from around Chicago, and we would go to these experimental shows they had at the Hottie Biscotti when that was still around on on Central Park in Fullerton, and he played a set there where it was just full drone, and I thought it was really great, and I had heard of some other people that were doing their own cassettes and were learning how to press them and whatnot, and it just so happened that after the show I was talking to Cinchel, and he handed me this booklet of CDs where it was completely watercolored and just had a couple CDs in it, and I went home and listened to it, and it was great, and just from there I thought, well, this should be released. Obviously, the cassette as a personal object is one of my favorite reasons for it, but I think there's a little bit of nostalgia for it too, having been raised in the 80s and 90s where you would actually buy a cassette when you were little before you would even buy a record or a CD, I guess, because I mean by the 90s it seemed like the things that we were listening to weren't pressed on vinyl as much, and so I just remember going out and getting cassettes, and I remember making them for people, and also recording on a 4-track for making these bedroom albums and things like that. I've always had this idea that tape is this real physical medium that can be manipulated, and it seems like you can do a lot with it, and so I just there is a lot of nostalgia there, as well as the sort of personal aesthetic of sharing the music that way. I usually leave the artwork up to the artist because I want that to reflect their idea about their music rather than mine, and so we end up with some interesting things, like for instance Cinchel's handmade tape. He actually put together the artwork. It's completely this humongous watercolor, and he cut down the J cards and everything, so it's sort of this really personal pressing. The artists I've worked with, especially in Atlanta, I've been working with Cyrus from the NEC and Sunny Muff Divers. They're the two other tapes we have out at the moment, and he really likes to be involved. So I guess I've never, on his end, I've never had the experience of him saying, do this, or I won't do the artwork, and he's been really helpful with mastering things as well. I really don't like the idea of how much the cost of music can change over a very short amount of time. I've seen some cassettes even going for $10 now, and there's, I read this, I think Permanent Records in one of their newsletters had this great question once where they're like, whatever happened to the $3 single or something like that? And so, I mean, I think people have a lot of really good reasons to charge that amount when they have a real handmade object, but I mean, since I'm not dubbing these myself, I like to keep the costs low, and I just have this platonic ideal that a cassette should be about $5 or so, and that's pretty much what we charge across the board. It'll just be $5, and that's that. I always want to give an artist as many cassettes as they can sell. So for instance, the NEC was just on tour, and they had toured previously as well when this tape was out, and I'll literally just give them, if they say we've sold out in Atlanta, or we need this number of tapes, I'll continue to send them, because it's less important to me that I sell it, or than if they can sell it and make money off of their project, as well as continue to make their music. It's very process oriented though, how I figured that out. It's basically, we need more tapes, and okay. The stores around Chicago are really wonderful about consignment. I have the Reckless Records is really good about keeping tapes for you, and I've recently been working with Permanent Records as well, and they're wonderful. I think the future of the cassette label is going to be is going to be in the hands of people who like their friends' music and just want everyone to hear the music by people they know. I think as long as people have this idea that there's music that needs to be represented, it will be represented in a way that's either low cost or really a personal object. And it's not to rail on people like the major labels who like just put out these grand artists and huge releases and everyone finds them everywhere. You know, there's not necessarily anything wrong with that, but it seems like people will always enjoy having personal music, as long as people want that to be heard and want something in culture that they can hold on to, rather than these huge rock stars that you would never have a conversation with a rock star, or very rarely. But it's really great to learn that you don't have to be a rock star to have great music, and you can have really close, I guess, a close and personal music experience with a lot of people who make great music. So as long as that's happening, I think people continue to make cassettes.